military parade. There will even be a No Kings protest right here in Jackson, the city of Jackson. That's going to be held at Jackson's own Withington Park. Ironically, that park hosts multiple monuments honoring military service. And this is where the No Kings rally protest decided to hold their day.
Yeah.
And maybe they could have chosen another place. I mean, we're honoring tomorrow the Army's 250th birthday party, but yet they choose to hold their rally, their protest, in defiance of this great military parade that's going to be held honoring the Army.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely poor scheduling on their part. Intentional. It's not an organic movement. We know it's planned. It's loosely tied to what's you've seen on the news in LA and New York. And we certainly hope that what's gone on in LA doesn't transpire here in Jackson. Really, I'm on here today to let you know that county officials were aware, and we have an emergency manager that works for the county. He's aware. He's been monitoring various sites and things on the ground, and there'll be surveillance of the event. Local law enforcement agencies, all of them have been made aware. The group actually had to apply for a petition to do the event. So local law enforcement has actually reached out to the main organizer, and they have pledged that it's going to be a peaceful event. And, that's people's First Amendment rights in America.
Yes.
So I don't like the date that they chose, nor the location, being that it's a monument to soldiers in Jackson, particularly, that fought and died for our rights. But nonetheless, they're there, and it's their right to speak peacefully. There's been reports that they're talking about sending their protesters into Congressman Wahlberg's parking lot and parking there.
Which is right across the street from Withington.
That's correct. So there will be surveillance on that building to make sure that no vandalism occurs, as we've seen, unfortunately, in LA. And, of course, a few summers ago when Soros-backed groups did similar stuff. So, it's not going to be tolerated in Jackson. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but the right people are aware and they're monitoring the situation. And I thought coming on here today to let the people of Jackson know, number one, that the people that are responsible for your public safety are aware, and they're monitoring it. And I talked to the sheriff personally today, and of course he doesn't give me exact details because he doesn't want his plan getting out there, but he's aware, and so is the chief of police of the city. And of course we have the state police just up the road in Blackman. We have the posts there, so we have ample law enforcement should individuals choose to make the wrong choices.
Yes. And again, I'm sure the majority who will be there are going there to peacefully protest. And let's hope it's not just the majority, but 100% of them. But all it takes, though, is
just takes a couple.
Just a couple.
One spark.
And usually what it is, what law enforcement has found, it's outside agitators. It'll be people that aren't from Jackson, and they'll be bussed in, and they try to spark, I guess the word would be hostility in the crowd, get people's emotions amped up, and then it goes from there in places where it's transpired. Unfortunately, I had the unique experience during Governor Whitmer's lockdown here in Michigan. A few friends and I decided, hey, we're going to get out of lockdown Michigan, and we went down to Indiana, got a hotel room at the Hilton in downtown Fort Wayne, and went out for a nice dinner. It was nice since our illustrious governor had deemed that we weren't worthy to do that.
Remember the billboards along I-69?
Yes.
The state of Indiana
thanks you,
and thanks Governor Whitmer.
Yeah.
And I did the same. But I just made it across the state line to Angola. Went for a pizza and a few beverages, and had a good time.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that night we didn't have that great of a time because that was shortly after George Floyd's death. and riots took place, and they destroyed the downtown and the hotel was right downtown.
Oh,
so I got firsthand experience of it, and
Okay.
it was utter chaos. And just in the little 1 block radius we were at, we noticed that there were little areas where bricks had been placed. It was almost strategic. And then you would see people running with masks on with hammers, beating on the sides of curbs, trying to destroy property, breaking out windows. It was utter chaos. So events like this are planned. So what if anyone watching this wants to know, hey, what can I do to help? Is I would say monitor about a 5 block radius around where this event's staged, and just look for things that might get placed today or early morning tomorrow that would be out of place. Maybe a pallet of bricks, maybe a pallet of 2x4s, loose rock dumped somewhere, because that's what's happened in other cities. And I'm not saying it's going to happen here, but that has happened in places like that. And Fort Wayne, unfortunately, was one of them that I saw firsthand. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen here in Jackson.
Observe and report.
Observe and report.
Observe and report.
Stay vigilant.
Yep.
And it's really unfortunate that we even have to be discussing this, because again, their rally, their protest is their constitutional First Amendment right.
It is.
But what isn't their First Amendment right is any destruction of property.
Yeah, it has to be done peacefully. I mean,
Yeah, peacefully.
Act like humans.
Sure.
I mean,
It's not too much to ask for.
Yeah, just act like a human.
You know, and in the mainstream, you're seeing a lot of the Democrat politicians coming out and saying it's peaceful what's going on in LA. It's only been small pockets, and it may have happened in small pockets, but they've done some severe destruction. And I feel calling in the National Guard was well warranted, because the situation was getting out of hand quickly. And I think everybody remembers a few summers ago what happened to Minneapolis, and that shouldn't happen in the United States of America.
Oh, I firmly believe of what President Trump said. If he hadn't called in the National Guard, if he hadn't ordered that, then LA probably wouldn't be standing as it is today.
We had a guest on Monday for the Stick to the Plan podcast and he talked about he's literally the National Guard was mobilized only to protect federal assets. And, that's what people are all upset about. But I mean, that's 100% the right to protect those federal assets, at least in my book.
Yeah.
You know, one other thing I'd like to say, John, because I've kind of been watching social media. That's where everything nowadays is amazing what it's come to. It used to be the guys you talk to at the coffee shop or the bar, but now it's all on the phone what's going on. But
talk about what you read in the paper.
Yeah.
Or heard on the radio.
So there's talks of counter protesters being there. And, of course, that's their First Amendment right, too. And being there to honor the soldiers and honor President Trump and love our country, have American flags. I would just encourage anybody that does that to stay peaceful. You know, you don't have to agree with people, but that doesn't give you the right to do physical harm to them. So if anybody's going there to counter protest and support America and support our troops, do so. Let your voices be heard, but do it respectfully and refrain from any violence.
Do not let them push your buttons.
That's right. Don't let them push your buttons.
Don't let them be agitators.
That's the game. That's the game they play. We've had a small group coming to our county meetings recently. I'm going to say the last 2. It might have been 3. I know you're aware because you follow everything in Jackson. You've thrown some grenades at me, boy. And by the way,
oh yeah!
So,
Awesome.
anyways,
going back, yes, Corey and I, we're good buddies, but we certainly have had our just a few disagreements.
Yeah, just minor disagreements.
Just minor disagreements.
Yeah. But the sheriff. Oh, there's Johnny Wilson.
Yeah, Johnny Wilson.
The sheriff has entered into agreement in Jackson County. Of course, it made headlines, and it really got taken out of context as to what he actually did. He went into an agreement with ICE, and what it's about is if someone that's here illegally in the country whether they've misused a visitor visa or overstayed a visa or just jumped the border and didn't come in with any type of visa at all. If they commit a crime in Jackson and that results in their arrest and they're incarcerated, what it does is when the background check's done and that comes back, they contact ICE. When they leave the county jail, the officers have the right to hold them up to 48 hours. They will pass them off to federal authorities, who will then impose federal law.
Yes.
So that's what there's 4 types when you comply with the ICE agreement. What the sheriff chose was the most mild of the 4, meaning even if somebody got pulled over, an illegal immigrant got pulled over, but they hadn't committed a crime and it came back on a check, they're not detaining them for being an illegal immigrant. They're not going into people's homes. They're not doing any of that. So there is no cost. A lot of these people were here screaming about cost to the county. There is no additional cost. And also, I want to make it known, Jackson is very welcoming to the immigrant community. You and I both know one of our favorite hangouts, the Shamrock. Multiple people from various Latin American countries that came here the legal way hang out there, and we're all good friends. We'll all have a good time over some beers, and that's the way it's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, these individuals have come to the meetings throwing out allegations that simply aren't true, and looking to push buttons, and that's what they do. So it's unfortunate. It'd be nice if a couple patriots came to the group and stood up and said, you know what the sheriff's doing is responsible, because if someone committed a crime that was so serious they got arrested and put in our jail, and you knew they were illegal and you let them go, and they did something after that, they did something to your family member, what would you have to say to the sheriff then? Well, now you're going to be upset because it affected you. So I feel what he's done is responsible. It's not heavy-handed, and it's not a burden on resources.
I look at it as it's basically arresting criminals for doing criminal things, and having them being held accountable. I mean, a legal immigrant is illegal. That's a criminal on its own. When they commit a different crime in our community, they should be punished for that, as well as being illegal. I mean, that's the way I look at it. It's just they're not kicking in doors, like you said. They're arresting criminals for doing criminal things.
Yeah, no, this literally, like, they won't find out till they've been arrested for a total separate crime.
Yeah.
So they don't even find out their status till they're at the jail.
Right.
And they're just doing the responsible thing. Hey, we've got an illegal immigrant here. Mm-hmm. ICE, do you want to come get him?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the
same thing we would do with any county.
Same thing, yes. If you had a warrant for your arrest in Mississippi, right, and you got arrested in Jackson, it is the responsibility of the county sheriff in Jackson to contact that municipality and let them know, do they want to come up and get that inmate when they're released from the county jail. Sometimes they don't because of lack of resources, but oftentimes they do, depending on the severity of the crime that they're wanted for down there. So
what I find, excuse me, very unfortunate, and this is not a county issue, it's a city issue, was that the Hispanic festival this year that's been held, I'm not sure maybe how many years, maybe 5 straight
fairly
years.
New. I think it's maybe 3 or 4
but
years.
It's very popular, very well attended, not just with the Hispanic community, but it's jam-packed downtown.
Yeah.
During the Hispanic festival. But it was canceled. It was canceled this year, and it was the Hispanic Festival Committee that decided to cancel it. I don't think there was any vote from the city council. They didn't have anything to do with that, but it's just unfortunate that it was canceled because, wow, they have some great entertainment, great food vendors. I've attended a couple.
The food.
Yes, the food is fantastic, but it's just not going to take place this year. And the reasoning behind the cancellation is
Well, they said it was political climate. That's
The
the first I've
political
heard
climate.
that there was a committee that made the decision. I wondered who made the decision to pull the plug, because in all honesty, I can tell you on Cinco de Mayo, I was down with several Hispanic friends hanging out and at a taco truck, and nobody was afraid of being detained in Jackson County. Like I said, that's it's unwarranted. So I almost think that was more of a political ploy than
Right.
legitimate fear, in my opinion.
Yes.
Because Jackson's a very welcoming community. It really
Absolutely.
is. So
And who's being hurt the most by it? The Hispanic community.
I would say the vendors, that
And
were,
of course the vendors and,
Yep.
and any and everybody who may attend.
It's unfortunate, and hopefully next year it gets back, because it's a great event for Jackson, and not just for Hispanic people, all people to support, celebrate that culture.
And again, although the city council did not have any say in it, a vote on it, the mayor did have to give his 2 cents worth on it, and
Oh,
he
you knew
made
that.
it. Mayor Mahoney made it all political, like you said, Corey, because of due to the political climate.
What's the Democrat line? Never let a good tragedy go to waste.
Yeah.
So that's what they do. Unfortunately, they don't really come up with any real solutions. They look for points to separate people rather than bring them together and build the community.
This is how left-wing cities operate.
Mm-hmm.
And we are within a left-wing city governance.
You are in a left-wing city government with a conservative county government. It's a unique
goodness.
situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's, again, a very good conservative county government that surrounds, again, a left-wing city hall.
It's very interesting. Yeah, all 7 districts, so that means all of the townships that surround Jackson County are 100% Republican, and of course the city's Democrat. But I guess that's not uncommon in a lot of areas.
Oh, with
But-
big cities, of course.
Yeah, but like I said, there's not one pocket that sticks out. It's red surrounding blue, and quite frankly, the city's not a heavy majority blue.
It is a majority.
It's a majority, but
the east side.
Yeah.
And I know this because I know the voting demographics like the back of my hand. East side and the north side are what you would consider moderate voters.
Mm-hmm. Those are
And
blue collar neighborhoods.
blue collars.
Yep.
They used to call them the Reagan Democrats. Now
Mhm.
they're called the Trump Democrats. And although President Trump did not win one city ward, he did get quite a few votes from the east side and north side.
Yeah.
He just can't crack that nut there in the 6th ward or the 1st ward.
Yeah.
And the 6th ward, which once was heavily Republican, is now heavily Democrat.
Yeah. It is what it is.
All right, Corey. So what else is happening in the county?
Well, I'll tell you a good thing that just started is, everybody this time of year, well, more last couple months, but as soon as the thaw out happens, the roads are always in horrendous condition, and the calls start coming, and commissioners spend good portion of their days on the phone with people like you, Mr. Wilson.
I don't call. I just put it out on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah, well, that's right. So what we've done is they've always had the phone number to call in to JCDOT, and you get entered into the work queue. And if you do call that number, it's the more detail you can get. So like if you can specify from one address to another address of that road, that really helps in the process, so they get the right work done. But what's also been added now is on the Jackson County Department of Transportation website, you can now enter one in online. And if you create yourself an account, you can see where you're at on the queue list, right? So you're like, oh man, I called that. Why hasn't that got to it? Well, you can see where all the other ones in the county, and then it tells you when they're completed. It'll tell you maybe it's only partially completed, because a lot of times I'll get a call in my very own subdivision, and they'll say, what the heck's going on? They came out here, they did part of Donnelly Road, they did they did part of Juniper Road and then they left and didn't do anything else. Well, what had happened was their hours for that day ran out, and they were scheduled to come back 2 days later. So this resource that now is going to be online on the website, I encourage everybody to create an account, because you can see exactly where you are in the work queue, and you can see when it's going to get done. Now, again, you're a city guy, so this isn't going to affect you. This is for county responsible roads. So the city has their own road department, and then the county is responsible for all the outlying townships. So, Blackman, Summit, Leone. A lot of people get confused. Sometimes they think they're in the city of Jackson. Well, no, you're actually in Blackman.
Right. And I've always, many times during many campaigns, one of my topics has been, why can't the county do more or do any street work in the city? Since I, as a city taxpayer, part of those taxes go to the county, just as any of the townships, villages.
Well, I got to break this down for you, because it's another misconception that a lot of people have. Yeah, you pay property taxes, but none of your property taxes go to roads in Michigan. Michigan's designed where you pay it at the pump through Act 51.
Act 51.
So the city
certainly needs to work over.
It does. It is not a functional system, because it doesn't create funds for local secondary roads. That's really the problem. So the city gets their amount based on your population, and then the county gets our amount based on our population. Now, could the county do road work for the city? Yeah, if the city wanted to partner with us like some of the townships do. They've never reached out to us because, of course, they have their own equipment and their own crews. Right. So it might not be viable for them. But if a majority of a city council decided, hey, the county's got better equipment, maybe we should partner with them. Yeah, the county could potentially do projects with the city. That wouldn't be out of line. You saw the roads we got done out there in Leone when they put in 50% using their marijuana revenue money. So that's there.
Yeah. Both the county road department and the city Department of Public Works, who those employees who work on the roads and streets, whether they be major streets, county roads, or neighborhood streets, they do a fantastic job. They only do what they're directed to do.
It's hard work. In fact, it's hard to get people to do it. Oftentimes they're understaffed based on our budget, what we can pay people, and it's labor intensive work. So it's a constant struggle. And then when you're dealing with not getting enough revenue, really what they're doing on the local secondary roads is they're just patching. They're just putting Band-Aids on it. Yeah. When we've got roads in this county that are 70, 75 years old, they need reconstructed, and there's no funding mechanism set up to do it unless you pass a millage, unless you do a special assessment district. But let's just be honest, some people don't know what those words mean. One way or the other, that's an addition. Now your property tax bill will pay for some type of road, and everybody's stretched to the max. I totally get it, but it's the reality is the reality. We at the county, and I can tell you the city's not in any better shape. We do not get enough money to do all the roads that need to get done. Right. We can barely keep up with the primaries, let alone getting to the secondary locals. So it's I hate being that brutally honest, but some politician would come out, oh yeah, I'm going to fix it, and I'm dedicated to it. I try to do the best we can do, try to get creative with other townships. Now, a lot of townships this year have reached out and they're taking advantage of the 70-30 match with the county. Mm-hmm. So the township puts forth 70%, the county puts forth 30%, and township can select what roads they want done in their township. Mm-hmm. So, and it doesn't have to be total reconstruction. Some of it's just
mill and pave.
Yeah. Sure. So,
which
we spoke about in depth a couple episodes about, but yeah. A couple episodes we spoke about the mill and pave in depth here. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Mill and paves would make a world of difference with many of our city's neighborhood streets.
Yeah, I'll tell you, though, if you drive around Summit and now Blackman's almost done, the roads are very, very good. Spring Arbor. Of course, those are all the areas that passed the millages.
Right.
And then now Napoleon has passed one, so very soon work will start out there in Napoleon. And then if Leone ever did, that would be your main surrounding areas of Jackson pretty much completed. And then, of course, the city's handling the way they handle it. I don't know exactly what they're doing. It seems like they do mainly special assessments. Is that how you've seen it?
Well, they've steered clear of special assessments now, and they're doing just major streets that, of course, are primarily funded from the federal government,
Grants,
state, and major street funds.
Yep.
So that leaves pretty much zero for the neighborhood streets. And again, neighborhood streets aren't funded at all by the Fed.
No,
Yeah, or the state.
No, you got to.
Or they're a little bit from the Act 51.
Yeah. Has anybody? I know you go to. I don't go to city council meetings because, of course, my districts are Leone Township and Napoleon. But has anybody ever asked the city what they are doing with their proceeds from the medical marijuana tax revenue they receive every year?
I attend every now and then a city council meeting, but I do watch most of them on television. Thankfully, we have that. It's been brought up, and for the most part, it never gets answered.
It just goes into the general fund.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I don't. All of my colleagues on the county board, I'm only speaking for myself because I can tell you right now, a lot of them don't agree with me on this. But I feel when you come into additional revenue like that, so like the county gets their portion of it, I personally think it should be set aside and put to a specific thing that the taxpayers are going to directly benefit from and they see.
That would be an essential earmark.
Yes, and
a little bit of transparency.
But
maybe.
Of course, administration, because they always are worried about the general fund and the ups and downs of it, and some of the other commissioners, and maybe they're wiser than I don't know, but they want to see it going to the general fund, so you're not hamstring to doing only one thing. But my problem is once that happens, you got this extra money, and what was it supposed to go to? Good analogy to that would be what the Keno money was supposed to go to schools, and yet we always hear schools are low on money. Well, how the heck does that happen when millions and millions are getting collected every year in Keno, right?
Last year, $1 billion, according to the Keno screen, it says $1 billion.
Yeah. So anytime, like, I was a big proponent for that and argued it, debated it amongst my colleagues that I want this earmark to go to something. And for me, it was roads. Our roads are in bad shape. We know it. We don't have funding for local roads, so why don't we use this revenue for that?
And I remember when you first brought that up, Corey, and that created a good, healthy debate amongst your commissioners. But at the end of the day, Corey was victorious with his getting that earmark for Page Avenue.
Well, 1 year, but then it never happened.
That was just 1 year.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And then from then on, well, I shouldn't say that. We do fund one corrections deputy that we would have lost in budget cuts years ago. So this is, what's it been, about 6 years, I think, now that the 4 years that the medical marijuana revenues come in. I'm not exactly sure. But that first year, we started earmarking so that we didn't lose that corrections deputy, and they've continued getting that money. So that's a small portion of it that is earmarked, I guess you could say.
And if it wasn't for Corey, we would have lost by now a couple more deputies, both road patrol and in the jail. So that was
a tough situation. It really was. And I respect that. Like I said, I understand because I know what it's like to grow up middle class. A lot of people think because of my family name that I grew up with a silver spoon, but that's not the case. Grew up with my mother. We weren't poor, but we were middle class.
Corey, you grew up with a big spoon.
Oh.
And a big fork.
Indeed, sir. Indeed.
Okay. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. So, but anyways, I know the struggles. And to add, $300, whatever it was going to be, it was right around there to your annual tax bill. It for some people, especially people living on structured income, retirement, whether it's a pension or Social Security. It's tough, but it put us in a really bad spot. And what I was trying to explain to people was, they're like, well, why didn't you plan for this? And it's like, no, when the former jail millage was passed and you built that new jail, it was structured in that paid for that staff. I was trying to get people to understand that. Of course, that was the third attempt to just do the staff,
Right.
And we couldn't even pass that. So had to make cuts.
I had to do my homework on that one because I didn't think it was included with staff. I thought it was just for the construction of Channer Road.
Yeah.
Because my brother Greg at the time was on the county commission when it was placed on the ballot for the 20-year mill. And once that 20 years was up, you had that hole to fill with finding money.
Yep. And we've made the cuts. It's caused some problems, like up in the administrator's office. I'm sure people know they call sometimes. There's not a receptionist there to answer the phone anymore because we cut that position. Mike, you're your own administrator now. You're your own secretary now. But that's what you got to do. It's cut where you can cut. If the citizens aren't willing to fund it, I'll tell you this: that jail problem on Wesley Street's not going away. We have been putting money aside into capital each year, and we floated a couple ideas by the sheriff. Nothing that's going to get everything fixed in a year, but if we can do little things out at Chanter Road each year to prep it to start moving people out there and eventually close on Wesley, I think that's what we eventually have to do.
Yeah. Of course, I was in front of the county commission many times.
Oh, yeah.
During the 3 millage request, and my argument was, number one, a little better planning on, and this would have been prior to you even being on the board, because of course they knew the first millage was expiring. But needless to say, you had other funding conduits, and the state, federal government, which allocates money to the state, and the state has the money to allocate towards local units of government, and there were grants available for jail funding. And of course, that's what I went up in front of the county commission and
read us the Riot Act.
Right.
Start throwing grenades at my head.
Not at your head for the most part.
I can hear you guys screaming that already.
But and because a maximum security unit along with a female inmate unit is definitely needed out there on Channer Road. I certainly wasn't 100% in favor of a whole new Channer Road jail, but at the time when they were passing millage number 1, number 2, number 3, oh yeah, I was all for. I was a proponent of a maximum security unit that way, and again, a unit for the female inmates. That way, they could just close up Wesley Street.
Eventually, it needs to happen.
Yeah,
and it's not even a maximum security unit. It's the fact that they can only house level 1 inmates at Chanter currently.
At Chanter, correct.
So it's not even maximum. It's level 2, level 3. I don't know how many. Well, levels
they would
are.
have to. Yeah, they would definitely have to spend a few $1 million on constructing fencing and razor wire. Double razor wire for maximum security units and everything else that may go with it. And of course, they would have to be separated from the other inmates out there, the lower level inmates. But someday, hopefully, Sheriff Schutte will get what he knows he needs, and that's a maximum.
In the meantime, our county facilities team they've done a good job. They've patched
what they can
out there. It did pass state inspection.
Yep.
But we know the problem. We know we've got to come up with some solution. Some of the commissioners are floating out, running a millage again. Again, to me, I think we've gone 3 times. Probably got to start looking at other angles. There's no good answer. I mean, you could go into debt and take a bond out, which would affect our credit rating, which the county has very good. I know the commissioners take a lot of criticism, but they've actually been very good stewards of the county's money over the last, not just recently, for many decades.
Mm-hmm.
So
you have a hefty reserve account, and that along with, like you said,
well,
a bond possibly.
The reserve account fluctuates up and down, and as a matter of fact, this year, we got to make the townships whole. I was just in talks with the chair and the administrator. We don't know if we might have to do some short-term borrowing to do that, because what you do is you got to pay all the townships to make them whole that had residents didn't pay tax bills,
right?
And then you become the collector, so you eventually hopefully get reimbursed, or you end up with the property.
So are you seeing a big increase in
no
properties?
The treasurer did a report, as a matter of fact, last meeting, and no, we are not reaching crisis level again, but there's always some in Jackson County.
Sure.
And it's the amount that we had to float that we're anticipating we have to float, at least according to the administrator, was like flirting with, well, we need to look at some of this Raffaele money that we set aside, because I'm not sure if you know about the Raffaele case in Michigan. Well, it used to be, John, you don't pay your taxes. You go through the 3-year process. You never pay them. Now the house is repossessed by the county, right? And then the county sells it at auction, and you're out your money. Well, what the Raffaele case drastically changed was, it used to be you're just out. But let's say you owe $10,000 in back taxes. Go to the auction and you sell the house for $50,000. Now there's $40,000 of equity, right?
Yeah.
So Raffaele ruled that the person that lost the house is not entitled to the whole portion of the sale, but they're entitled to the above and beyond amount, the equity in it.
Yeah.
So, and you heard the word equity thrown around so much in the racial standpoint. That's what equity really is.
That's what equity
Right.
is.
Yeah, it's what you've earned through what you paid in time off of a mortgage or whatever you did. So, anyways, what had happened was they allowed people to go retro back. So the treasurer, who has also been a good steward of the county's money, she went back and looked at what could potentially be, and she set that money aside in case the court ruling comes down. So we have enough money if you count that money. But if we took it and a claim came in, right, now we don't have money to pay the claim, so we got to borrow money on that.
So how far does it go back?
You'd have to ask the treasurer. I don't want to say something she said it a couple times. There's 2 different parts. So there was one that went back a specific amount of time, and they had to answer by a certain amount of time, and that portion's closed. But now there's another window of time. She was explaining it. It's kind of confusing because I sit on the land bank too, and there's some money that we got through a grant that what we were looking to do was on a parcel of land that the county had, pay a builder, sell the house, refund the county land bank, do it again. Mm-hmm. Affordable housing, right? Not free housing, not providing mortgages, none of that. It goes in the open market, but putting affordable housing out on the market to people that can qualify for financing on it. We haven't been able to find properties in the land bank that are viable properties. We looked into some out in Leone, some out in Napoleon, some out in Blackman, and they were all there. There's reason they're in the land bank and nobody wants the land. They're not buildable.
Right.
So we asked her, can we take one of these properties that are in the auction? She was apprehensive about that because of the Raffaele case. Okay, you take that property, you put a house on it, you sell it. Now who's entitled to the difference? So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, that I haven't heard of. All right, Corey.
Yeah.
Kevin, any comments out there?
No comments here, but I did have a couple questions, good questions in the chat. Let me pull that up. One of them, I'll pull it up on the screen for you too. Commissioner Kennedy, do you have any thoughts on the situation at JPS with Derek Dobies?
It is abysmal what he's done. It's a complete conflict of interest. I can't even, I don't even understand why he would have access to the contract when they have an attorney that draws up the contract.
Yeah.
But number one, doing that, now sounds like he's kind of thrown the new superintendent, the attorney under the bus, because they said initially they didn't have knowledge of it. He's now claiming that they do. Of course, I'm only reading this. So as totally unethical. And also, I work on the side of the company in negotiating collective bargaining agreements. And I can tell you, in our contract language, if it specifically said you had a union, the employer is not supposed to allow another union in. And that's exactly what he did. So
Yes.
there was already a union representing the administrator group. And he brings in the group that he's directly employed by and adds it into the contract language. And how he can say that's not a conflict of interest is beyond me.
And then votes on it, of
The
course.
definition of
So it's a
conflict
double
of
conflict.
interest.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy. Unfortunately, what I've seen in a lot of years and with government stuff is you see these people do stuff like that, and if anything happens, it's a slap on the hand. But at the very least, he should be stripped of his leadership role. I mean, if I did something like that at the county, first of all, it would never happen. I'm the vice chairman, and I would never have access to change a legal document. But if I did, I can tell you my colleagues would vote my butt right off.
Well,
my understanding was it was on a Google Drive that was easily editable.
Okay.
And again, this is just I don't have any direct knowledge. But the thing is, at my job we use a Google Drive, and when you do edit something, it lets everyone else know that's shared to that file that's been edited and who edited it. So I think that it kind of goes both ways. It's a possibility that others did know, but just not neglect necessarily, but just oversight.
Well, you know what? Because the county does this with board docs. So, like, if somebody, the commissioners don't have access to it, but our administrator or the department head of that thing that's bringing something, it'll show Mike Overton approved on this date, and then it might say adjusted on this date, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I see what you're saying. You could say, well, those board members should have seen that, but let's be real. If you make a big change like that, you probably should bring that forward to all the people before they take a vote.
Of course.
I agree.
Yeah. So
Dobies, our former Jackson mayor, is employed with the Michigan AFL-CIO.
Yes.
Along with our current mayor, Daniel Mahoney.
Mm-hmm.
And
current councilman Connor Wood is also employed with AFL-CIO of Michigan, and former councilwoman Colleen Sullivan and former Jackson City councilwoman, cannot think of her first name right now, but it just so happens to be Councilman Connor Wood's wife. So how many is that? We have Dobies, we have Mahoney, we have Woods, we have Sullivan, and we have former councilwoman, Kelsey Heck.
And for anybody who thinks John's just spouting off at the mouth, just go to their website.
Yeah.
And you'll see all their faces on it.
So
yeah.
I believe you posted that on, or someone posted on that Conservatives of Jackson site, the leadership of the union.
Yeah. Now Michigan AFL-CIO hired Derek Dobies while he was serving as mayor, and they hired Daniel Mahoney, who is currently serving as mayor. They hired Daniel while serving as Jackson mayor. Not sure when they hired Connor Woods, whether he was serving on the council or not at the time, or his wife. But anyways, the Michigan AFL certainly has a stranglehold over the city of Jackson. And apparently Dobies would like to get that Michigan AFL-CIO now involved with our Jackson Public Schools. And just like this was a conflict of interest with Dobies voting on that superintendent contract that included the language that Dobies inserted, no different than the conflict of interest that took place with Mayor Mahoney and Councilman Connor Woods, when they voted on the fireman's contract, the International Firefighters Association, which is an arm of the Michigan AFL-CIO, just like the superintendent's union is an arm of the Michigan AFL-CIO. So both Councilman Woods and Mayor Mahoney definitely are guilty of a conflict of interest when they voted to approve that fireman's contract.
Yeah, because I can tell you this. So the city, I don't think, operates a ton different than the county in contract negotiations because they're a weak mayor system. So their city manager and their HR director more than likely sitting down with the union reps and negotiating the contracts. And at the county level, it's our HR director, our county administrator, our assistant county administrator, and they go back and forth and they do all the direct negotiation.
Yes.
And then in closed session, they come and they talk to the county commissioners, and we get everybody's input on where we think we need to be at. We see what our financial situation is, what we can afford, what the employees are saying, yada, yada, yada. And every commissioner votes his conscience. Now, if I work,
they go back out in session and vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. And yep. You have to do everything in the open.
Yes.
Yep. So if I worked for a union, how in good faith could I ever say, "Oh, that's a great offer by the union," and I'm voting yes on that?
Yes.
There's you're not negotiating in good faith, and you could say, "Well, yes, but Corey, the council members aren't directly negotiating." Well, that's true, but they're voting on the recommendation of that, and don't think that a mayor and a council member can't have a effect on that administrator. Because they're the boss.
Well, just like you do in the county. With the county, you
Yeah.
go to
If
the
five-
city council goes into closed session.
Yep.
They discuss the contract,
Yeah.
and then they go back out
See, I wasn't aware.
open session and
Oh.
they vote on that contract.
I wasn't aware that the city's unions had direct connection to AFL-CIO.
Oh, sure.
The firefighter does. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Yeah, and our city attorney.
Lots of issues are going on there.
Where is our city attorney? Why doesn't our city attorney, Matthew Haggerty, say to Mayor Mahoney and Councilman Woods, gentlemen, you cannot discuss this. You cannot vote on this because you are both employed with the Michigan AFL-CIO, and they are directly connected to this firefighters union. So therefore, you cannot discuss it in closed session with us, nor can you vote on it. As simple as that. And guess what? They still would have had the votes to pass it.
Yeah, it's just a point.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen.
Was there-
Corey,
well,
it's been great. Go ahead.
Well, he said there were a couple questions. Are there any
Oh,
more?
I'm sorry.
The other one was just about Drive Jackson. Since we're talking about roads, he said, "What's the deal with the Chamber Drive Jackson getting $50,000?"
Well,
Pull that question up.
I was a no vote on that. So I believe that went 5-4. You pay closer attention to the vote counts than I do, John.
Everybody to the left of Overton voted no. Everybody to the left of Overton facing the chamber
Yeah.
voted no. And I'll tell you who voted.
Stage left.
Voted no was Commissioner Kennedy, Commissioner Duckham, Commissioner Bear, and
Margin
Commissioner Waltz.
Yeah.
The 5 votes, which happens too often, the 5 votes that voted to approve this $50,000 expenditure were Commissioner Chair Shotwell, Commissioner Snell, Commissioner Pileski, Commissioner Williams, and Commissioner Willis.
Yep.
Those were your 5 votes. And if you go to a county commission or view it on their YouTube, if you're sitting in the chambers, you have Shotwell here, and those 4 other votes that he always gets are to the right of him. And usually the 4 votes from the fiscal conservative county commissioners are to the left. And we've talked about it before, Kevin. Let's be very thankful that we have those 4 commissioners.
Absolutely.
Those 4 fiscally conservative county commissioners, because the other 5 are not. I'm sorry. They may be Republican, because they're all partisan, and they may be Republicans, but sometimes they don't behave as a good fiscal conservative Republican should.
Well, to be fair, I don't feel like this group is worthless. Okay.
No,
My feeling, my no vote was because there's so many other pressing needs that I don't see feeding $50,000 to a group that is going to do the study regardless if we were involved in it or not.
And that $50,000 too. they hired an outside consulting firm from Columbus, Ohio, to work on this 20-year vision plan.
Well, this is what they do. They go to communities and do this. But Commissioner Duckham, in my opinion, is, well, we pretty much know what our residents want. And it's pretty simple. They want the roads fixed, fix the roads, right? And so $50,000, they might not go far, but it could have done a part of a road.
Well, sure. But, and it's hopefully precedent wasn't set, because this is the first time that the county or the city has directly appropriated funding to the Jackson County Chamber.
No. They've done it every time they do this, because what's happening is there's a strategic vision that they do. I think it's every
5 years.
5 years. And yes, we pay money for it.
Is the chamber involved with that? Or
I don't know.
That's Region 2. No, that's Region 2, the county.
I'm not talking about the master plan, John. I'm talking about the vision plan. So if you walk in...
How many visions are there?
Well, you got to have vision to move forward. Okay, you can't... My outlook is this. Fundamentally, I disagree with my colleagues that voted yes. But we're where we're at now. And so I'm going to get our money's worth out of that group. I'm going to go to the stuff and see what they have to offer. I'll go in with an open mind. But they need to show me that what are you bringing to Jackson that we wouldn't have already got through doing this?
Yep.
I mean,
yes.
I think we all agree on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions there?
I think that's everything from the chat.
Right.
Excuse me. Other than that, guys, make sure you follow this channel and like this stream, guys. Check us out on Facebook as well. Other than that, thank you, Commissioner Kennedy, for coming on today. I think it was an important show. That's why we're here on a Friday randomly. But anything else from you guys?
Tuesday night, next county commission meeting, 5th floor, County Tower Building, 7 p.m. Open to the public. Public comment welcome.
Is there a time that this protest is supposed to go on tomorrow?
Yes, hold on 1 minute and I can pull that up for you.
Yeah, that's the only thing I think I wrote down that we were missing, because it's tomorrow, Saturday the 14th, correct?
Yeah, I want to say it was and if you haven't joined Conservatives of Jackson, Michigan on Facebook, a lot of people post, including myself.
I'll put that down in the description of this episode as well.
Here it is. It is on their official thing. There's a link you can look at it to see if it changes. They're showing noon to 4 at Withington Park, which is 400 West Michigan Ave. And they are directing their protesters to park in Congressman Wahlberg's parking lot. So if anyone's going there to celebrate our soldiers and to celebrate our great president, park in Congressman Wahlberg's lot and
bring a flag.
Yeah, I think I might be down there. I've got some new camera gear and see if I can't talk to some people down there as well. So anyways, that's all I've got for you guys. Anything else from you gentlemen?
No, thanks for having me, John.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Corey. And you'll be back.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll bring him back for sure. Guys, once again, make sure you follow the Facebook, follow this page on YouTube and on Rumble. And we'll be back, 2 weeks?
A couple weeks on Thursday.
We'll decide. Yeah. I mean, who knows? We'll be around.
All right.
So you guys have a great one, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.
Somewhere. There we go. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good show. Good, informative show.
Welcome to the show, John Wilson in the studio. Talking all things Jackson, bringing you the news that you need to know. The Hands on Jackson podcast, and we're coming at you live in your city. Jackson, this is your time. Get your news from your neighbor, the people who care. Unbiased and uncensored with pride. Broadcast broadcasting to you live on the air. Trusted source to tell you what's happening from the city to the county line. All the news that matters. Make your own opinion about the news that affect your life. It's Home Jackson Podcast, and we're coming at you live in your city, Jackson. This is your time. Get your news from your neighbor, the people who care, unbiased and uncensored with pride. Coming at your broadcasting live on the air. Yeah, the It's Home Jackson Podcast, and we're coming at you live from your city, Jackson, and we're bringing you